Hyun Park stood at her apartment window on Earth, looking at the busy sky lanes above Seoul Megacity. Flying vehicles moved in perfect lines through the evening air. Among them, she could see the sleek silver shapes of her father's company ships, Stellar Airways vessels heading to the orbital station. She smiled as she packed her quantum engineering textbooks into her travel bag. At 22 years old, Hyun was one of the youngest students in her advanced program at Seoul Science University. But today, she wasn't thinking about her studies. She was thinking about surprising her father. Hyun Park had built Stellar Airways from nothing. 30 years ago, he had started with just one small ship running cargo between Earth and the Moon. Now, his company operated the largest fleet of passenger ships traveling between Earth and the colonies. But despite his success, Hyun never bragged about his wealth. He lived simply and worked hard, just as he had when he was poor. "Your father will be very surprised," said Mrs. Kim, Hyun's elderly neighbor, who was helping her pack. "But why don't you just take his private ship, or at least tell him you're coming?" Hyun folded another dress carefully. "I want to see how his company really works, Mrs. Kim. Not as the owner's daughter, but as a regular passenger." She looked at her ticket confirmation on her wrist computer. The name on it read Hyun Lee. She had used her mother's family name to book the flight. Her mother had passed away when Hyun was young, but she knew her father would understand using the name this way. The regular passenger ticket had cost 3 months of her teaching assistant's salary. Hyun could have easily asked her father for money, but that would have ruined the surprise. More importantly, it would have gone against everything he had taught her about earning her own way in life. "Your father works too hard," Mrs. Kim said, handing Hyun her favorite blue jacket. "He hasn't taken a vacation in 5 years. Not since he started the New Earth colony route." "That's why I'm going to visit him," Hyun said. "The university's spring break is 2 weeks long. Plus, I can study the quantum drives on the colony ships for my research project." She checked her wrist computer again. The time was 18:30. Her flight would leave the orbital station at 22 o'clock. She needed to catch the ground-to-orbit shuttle soon. "Do you have everything?" Mrs. Kim asked. "Your ID, your student cards, your engineering license." Hyun patted her jacket pocket where she kept her documents. "All here. And I made copies like Father always tells me to do." Mrs. Kim helped her close the travel bag. "You're just like your father, you know. Always planning everything carefully." Hyun hugged her neighbor goodbye. "Thank you for helping me pack, Mrs. Kim. Please don't tell anyone where I'm going. I don't want Father's assistants to find out." The elderly woman smiled. "Don't worry. I can keep a secret. Now hurry, or you'll miss your shuttle." Outside, the evening air was cool. Hyun walked to the transit station, her travel bag rolling quietly behind her. Around her, the city glowed with lights. Advertisements for Stellar Airways played on the giant screens of nearby buildings. They showed happy families arriving on New Earth colony, stepping out into the sunshine of humanity's newest home. The ground-to-orbit shuttle station was busy with evening travelers. Hyun joined the security line, carefully showing her regular passenger documents. The security officers checked her quantum engineering license with extra attention. Not many passengers carried such advanced technical credentials. "You're an engineer?" one officer asked, looking at her young face with surprise. "Still a student," Hyun answered politely. "But I'm licensed for emergency repairs." The officer nodded and let her through. Hyun smiled to herself. This was how she wanted people to see her, as a capable young engineer, not as the daughter of Hyun Park. The shuttle ride to the orbital station took 30 minutes. Hyun spent the time looking down at Earth through the window. Somewhere in the orbital station above, her father's newest ship, the Stellar Dream, was preparing for its first passenger flight to New Earth colony. She had read about it in the news. The most advanced passenger ship ever built, with quantum engines that could cross the distance in just 3 days instead of the usual 5. The orbital station came into view, a massive structure of metal and glass. spinning slowly in space. Hundreds of ships were docked there, from small private vessels to huge cargo carriers. Hei-yun could see the Stellar Airways section clearly. The company's ships stood out with their silver paint and blue stripes. As the shuttle docked, Hei-yun checked her ticket again. She would be on a regular passenger ship, not the new Stellar Dream. That was fine with her. She wanted to experience the journey just like most people did. The orbital station was even busier than the ground station. People from all over Earth moved through the wide corridors, heading to ships that would take them to the Moon, Mars, or the outer colonies. Hei-yun followed the signs to her gate, passing shops and restaurants along the way. She stopped at a viewing window to look at her ship. The Stellar Light was smaller than the Stellar Dream, but it was still beautiful. Its silver hull shined under the station's lights. In a few hours, it would carry her toward New Earth Colony, where her father was overseeing the start of the new passenger route. Hei-yun touched her mother's necklace, which she always wore. "I think you would be proud of father," she whispered. "He built all of this while still being a good person. That's what I want to do too." She walked to her gate, ready to begin her journey. Soon, she would see if her father's company treated all passengers as well as he always said they should. And maybe, just maybe, she would have a chance to prove herself as more than just the chairman's daughter. The boarding call for the Stellar Light began to sound through the station's speakers. Hei-yun stood up, straightened her jacket, and joined the line of passengers. Her adventure was about to begin. The Stellar Light's boarding area was clean and organized. Hei-yun stood in line with other passengers, holding her boarding pass. She watched as people walked through the security scanner one by one. Many carried expensive bags and wore business clothes. They were probably going to New Earth Colony for work. At the front of the line, a flight attendant named Ji-won Lee checked each passenger's documents. Ji-won had worked for Stellar Airways for 5 years. She was known for following rules exactly and treating everyone equally. Today was special because Tae-yang Kim, the chief operations officer, was watching how the staff worked. When it was Hei-yun's turn, she handed her documents to Ji-won. The flight attendant checked everything carefully. "Welcome, Ms. Lee," Ji-won said, using Hei-yun's mother's family name from the ticket. "Your seat is in section C, row 15. Hei-yun looked through the door at the first-class section. There were empty seats there. She had noticed them on the boarding screen. One of them was right at the front, perfect for watching the quantum drive effects during the journey. "Excuse me," Hei-yun said politely. "I see there are empty seats in first class. Would it be possible to upgrade my ticket? I can pay the difference." Ji-won's face stayed professional and calm. "I apologize, Ms. Lee, but we cannot offer upgrades after boarding has started. It's a security rule for interplanetary flights. All passengers must stay in their assigned sections." From his position near the gate, Tae-yang Kim watched with interest. He had helped write those security rules himself. They were important for keeping track of passengers during the long journey. "I understand," Hei-yun said, "but the seat is empty anyway. I'm a quantum engineering student, and I would love to observe the drive effects from that viewing angle." "That's very interesting," Ji-won said kindly but firmly. "However, the rules apply to everyone equally. I cannot make exceptions, even for engineers." Hei-yun thought about showing her real ID, the one that proved she was Ha-yun Park, daughter of the company's owner. But that would go against everything she was trying to do. She wanted to experience the flight as a regular passenger. "Thank you for explaining," Hei-yun said with a small bow. She walked to her seat in the regular section. Tae-yang Kim made a note on his computer pad. Ji-won had handled the situation perfectly. She had stayed professional and followed the rules, even when faced with a reasonable request from a well-spoken passenger. Ji-won walked through the cabin, checking that everyone was secure. She stopped at Hei-yun's row. "The quantum drive will activate in 5 minutes," she said. "You may experience a brief feeling of disorientation. This is normal." Hei-yun nodded her thanks. She noticed Jai-1 was doing her job perfectly, just as her father would want. Maybe being denied the upgrade wasn't such a bad thing. It showed that Stellar Airways treated everyone fairly, exactly as her father had always intended. The quantum drive hummed louder. Through her window, Hei-yun saw the stars start to blur. The ship was entering quantum space, beginning its long journey to New Earth Colony. She touched her mother's necklace again and smiled. The adventure was really starting now. Tai Yang Kim made his final notes before the quantum jump. Everything was in order. The staff was professional, the passengers were safe, and the ship was running well. But something about the quantum engineer passenger stuck in his mind. He decided to review the manifest more carefully during the journey. In deep space, having an extra qualified engineer aboard could never hurt. The stellar light jumped into quantum space, leaving Earth behind. Hei-yun closed her eyes as the stars streaked past her window. In 5 days, she would see her father. But first, she had a feeling this journey might bring some unexpected challenges. The regular section was comfortable, even if it wasn't as spacious as first class. Hei-yun put her bag in the storage compartment and sat down. Through her window, she could see other ships docked at the orbital station. One of them was the Stellar Dream, her father's newest ship. Its quantum drive system was the most advanced ever built. More passengers filled the seats around her. A young boy sat across the aisle, looking excited about his first space trip. His mother helped him fasten his safety harness. "Is this your first time going to New Earth Colony?" the boy asked Hei-yun. She smiled. "Yes, it is." "Is it yours too?" The boy nodded eagerly. "My mom got a job there. She says the sky looks different because it has 2 suns." "That's right," Hei-yun said. "The colony orbits a binary star system. That's why the quantum drive is so important. It helps ships navigate the complex gravity fields." The boy's eyes got wide. "You know about quantum drives." Before Hei-yun could answer, the ship's announcement system turned on. Jae-won's voice came through clearly. "Welcome aboard Stellar Light, Flight 247 to New Earth Colony. Please ensure all safety harnesses are properly fastened. Our journey will take 5 days. During this time, you will experience artificial gravity in all passenger sections. However, please pay attention to all safety announcements." Hei-yun checked her harness. She knew the safety procedures by heart. She had grown up learning about them from her father. But today she was just another passenger following the rules. In his observation position, Tai Yang Kim started his inspection rounds. Everything was running smoothly. The passenger manifest showed a good mix of people, families moving to the colony, business travelers, and tourists. One thing caught his eye: a note about a licensed quantum engineer among the passengers. That could be useful if any technical problems came up during the journey. The ship's engines started their warm-up sequence. Hei-yun felt the slight vibration through her seat. She took out her computer pad and opened her quantum engineering textbook. Even if she couldn't watch the drive effects from first class, she could still study during the journey. "All pre-flight checks are complete," the captain's voice announced. "We are ready for departure." The ship slowly moved away from the orbital station. Earth looked beautiful through the windows, a blue and white sphere against the blackness of space. Hei-yun thought about her father. He had seen this view thousands of times, but he still said it was amazing every time. As the quantum drive prepared to activate, Hei-yun felt a slight change in the ship's vibration. Something didn't sound quite right to her trained ear. She made a note on her pad but didn't say anything. The ship had its own engineers. She was just a passenger today. 2 days into the journey to New Earth Colony, the stellar light moved smoothly through quantum space. Most passengers were asleep during the ship's designated night cycle. Hei-yun sat in her seat, reading her quantum engineering textbook under the soft cabin light. The strange vibration she had noticed during takeoff had grown stronger. She could feel it through the floor, though other passengers didn't seem to notice. Her engineering training told her something wasn't right with the quantum drive's alignment. Suddenly, the ship's lighting changed to amber. A gentle alarm sound filled the cabin. Ji-won's voice came through the speakers. "Ladies and gentlemen, we are experiencing a minor gravitational fluctuation. Please remain in your seats with safety harnesses fastened." In the ship's control room, Chief Engineer Sung-min studied the quantum drive readings with concern. The gravitational field around the ship was becoming unstable. He turned to Tai-yang Kim, who had come to check on the situation. "The quantum field is misaligned," Sung-min explained. "We need to stabilize it before it affects our course. But the usual fixes aren't working." Tai-yang remembered the passenger manifest. "We have a quantum engineer aboard." In Section C, Row 15. Down in the passenger cabin, Hae-yun was already unbuckling her harness. She pressed the call button, and Jae-won came quickly. "I'm a licensed quantum engineer," Hae-yun said, showing her credentials. "I might be able to help." Jae-won looked at the documents carefully. They were genuine. She called the control room, and soon Hae-yun was following her through the ship's service corridors. The quantum drive chamber was massive. Blue light pulsed from the core, creating strange shadows. Chief Engineer Sung-min looked up as they entered. "Ms. Lee?" he asked, reading from her credentials. "Thank you for volunteering. What's your experience with Mark 7 quantum drives?" "I did my thesis on gravitational field stabilization," Hae-yun said. She looked at the readings on the main screen. "Your secondary field generator is out of sync. That's causing the fluctuation." Sung-min checked the readings again. She was right. "Can you help us realign it?" Hae-yun nodded. She sat at the engineering station and began typing commands. Her fingers moved quickly over the controls. On the screens, complex equations scrolled past. "The problem isn't the generator itself," she explained. "It's the timing system. The quantum pulses are arriving too early, creating interference patterns." She opened a new program window and wrote a short code sequence. It would adjust the timing of the quantum pulses to match the ship's natural resonance frequency. "May I implement this solution?" she asked Sung-min politely. Even though she knew it would work, she respected the chain of command. Sung-min reviewed her code. His eyes widened slightly. The solution was elegant and simple. Why hadn't they thought of it? "Proceed," he said. Hae-yun entered the command. The ship's vibration changed immediately. The blue light from the quantum core became steadier. On the displays, the gravitational field readings returned to normal. Tai-yang watched all this with growing interest. The young engineer's solution was innovative. He pulled up her passenger details again on his tablet. Something about her credentials seemed familiar. In the quantum drive chamber, Sung-min ran a full system check. Everything was working perfectly now. "Impressive work," he said to Hae-yun. "Where did you learn about quantum drive timing systems?" Hae-yun thought carefully before answering. "I had a good teacher," she said simply. She didn't mention that the teacher had been her father, explaining quantum mechanics to her since childhood. Back in the passenger cabin, people were relaxing as the amber lights returned to normal. Ji-won made an announcement. "The gravitational fluctuation has been resolved. Thank you for your patience." Hae-yun returned to her seat. The young boy across the aisle looked at her with admiration. "Were you helping fix the ship?" he asked. She smiled. "Just doing my job as an engineer." That evening, Tai-yang sat in his office, reviewing Hae-yun's credentials more thoroughly. Her quantum engineering license was issued by Seoul Science University. Her academic records were outstanding, but it was her birth certificate that finally caught his attention. Mother's name, Mai-Soo Lee. Father's name, Do-han Park. Tai-yang sat back in his chair, understanding dawning on his face. The talented young engineer in row 15 was the chairman's daughter. She had booked her ticket under her mother's family name. He thought about how she had handled the situation. She hadn't demanded special treatment or revealed her identity. Instead, she had helped solve a technical problem using her own skills and knowledge. Tai-yang smiled. He decided not to tell anyone yet. The chairman would be interested to hear how his daughter had earned the crew's respect through her abilities, not her family name. In her seat, Hei-yun continued reading her textbook. The ship hummed smoothly around her, its quantum drive now perfectly aligned. She touched her mother's necklace and smiled. 2 more days until she would see her father. She wondered what he would say when he heard about today's events. The stellar light continued its journey through quantum space, carrying its passengers, including one very special engineer, toward New Earth Colony. The stellar light was 1 day away from New Earth Colony. The double suns of the binary star system were visible through the ship's windows, growing larger as they approached. Ta Yang Kim sat in his office, preparing his report about the quantum drive incident. He had spent the last day watching Hei-yun carefully. The chairman's daughter continued to behave like any other passenger. She helped an elderly man with his meal tray, shared her textbook with the curious young boy across the aisle, and politely thanked the crew members for their service. Chief Engineer Sung-min knocked on Ta Yang's office door. "You wanted to see me, sir." "Yes, come in." Ta Yang gestured to a chair. "What do you think about our passenger engineer, Ms. Lee?" Sung-min's face brightened. Her solution to the quantum drive problem was brilliant. "I've updated our maintenance protocols based on her timing correction method. It will help prevent similar problems on other ships." "What if I told you," Tai Yang said carefully, "that her real name is Hei-yun Park?" Sung-min looked confused for a moment. Then his eyes widened. "Park? You mean she's the chairman's daughter?" "Yes." Tai Yang showed him the passenger records. She booked the ticket under her mother's family name. But when we denied her first-class upgrade request, Sung-min looked worried. "She accepted it without complaint," Tai Yang finished, "and later helped save the ship without revealing her identity." In the passenger cabin, Hei-yun was teaching the young boy, whose name was Min-ho, about quantum physics. She used her juice cup and snack wrapper to demonstrate how gravity fields worked. "See, when the quantum drive bends space, she moved the cup in a curve. It creates a path that lets the ship travel very fast without breaking any physics laws." Min-ho watched with fascination. "Is that what you fixed yesterday?" "The drive wasn't bending space smoothly," Hei-yun explained. "It was like trying to run on an uneven floor. We just had to make the floor flat again." Jae-won passed by their row, smiling at the impromptu physics lesson. She had learned about Hei-yun's true identity during the morning crew briefing. The revelation had surprised her, but it hadn't changed her view about the upgrade denial. Rules were rules, and she had done her job correctly. Tai Yang called a meeting with the senior crew members. In the ship's conference room, he explained the situation. "Chairman Park will be at the spaceport to greet this ship personally," he said, "not just because of the quantum drive incident, but because his daughter is aboard." The crew members looked at each other in surprise. Only Ji-won and Sung-min had known. "The chairman has a strict policy about special treatment," Tai Yang continued. "His family members are to be treated like any other passengers when they fly. Ms. Park's behavior has shown that she respects this policy. She's been a model passenger," Jae-won added. "Even after helping with the quantum drive, she returned to her seat without asking for any special privileges." Through the conference room window, they could see Hei-yun reading in her seat. She had spent most of the journey studying or helping other passengers understand the science behind space travel. "The chairman will want a full report," Tai Yang said, "not just about the technical incident, but about how we treated his daughter when we didn't know who she was. I believe we can be proud of our performance." The crew agreed. They had maintained professional standards and treated everyone fairly. This was exactly what Chairman Park had built his company to do. Later that day, Hei-yun felt the ship's quantum drive power down as they entered normal space. New Earth Colony was visible now, a beautiful green and blue planet orbiting its twin suns. The sight reminded her of Earth, but with subtle differences that made it exotic and new. "Ladies and gentlemen," the captain's voice announced, "welcome to New Earth Colony. Local time is 14:30. Please prepare for atmospheric entry." Hei-yun put away her textbook and fastened her safety harness. Soon she would see her father. She wondered if he had heard about the quantum drive incident yet. In the spaceport's VIP lounge, Chairman Du-han Park watched the stellar lights approach on a large screen. His assistant had just finished briefing him about the events of the journey. "Your daughter handled the quantum drive malfunction?" he asked, his voice proud but controlled. "Yes, sir," the assistant confirmed. "And according to Chief Operations Officer Kim, she did not once mention her connection to you, even when denied a first-class upgrade." Du-han smiled. This was exactly how he had raised Hei-yun to behave, to earn respect through her actions, not her family name. The stellar light landed smoothly on the spaceport's main runway. As the ship taxied to its gate, Hei-yun looked out her window. The spaceport was impressive, with dozens of ships from various companies parked at their gates. But the Stellar Airways section was the largest and most modern. "Thank you for flying with Stellar Airways," Jai-won announced over the speaker system. "Welcome to New Earth Colony. Please remain seated until the seatbelt sign is turned off." Hei-yun waited patiently with the other passengers. She saw Tae-yang Kim walking through the cabin, doing final checks. He caught her eye and gave a small, respectful nod. She realized then that he knew who she was. As the passengers began to stand and collect their belongings, Hei-yun stayed calm. The young boy, Min-ho, waved goodbye as he left with his mother. Several passengers thanked her again for the physics lessons she had given during the journey. Finally, it was time to disembark. Hei-yun walked toward the exit, where Jai-won was thanking each passenger. When Hei-yun reached her, the flight attendant smiled warmly. "Thank you for flying with us, Ms. Park," Jai-won said quietly. "Your father would be proud." Hei-yun bowed slightly. "Thank you for treating me like any other passenger. That would make him even prouder." She walked up the jet bridge, her heart beating faster with each step. She could see a small group of people waiting at the gate. In the center stood her father, looking exactly as she remembered, tall, dignified, and trying to hide a smile. Chairman Du-han Park stood at the arrival gate of New Earth Colony Spaceport, watching as passengers emerged from the stellar light. His face remained calm, but his heart beat faster as he waited for his daughter. When Hei-yun appeared, she looked exactly as he remembered, determined and graceful, just like her mother. She carried her travel bag in one hand and her quantum engineering textbook in the other. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then Hei-yun walked forward and bowed formally. "Hello, Father." Du-han surprised everyone by stepping forward and hugging his daughter. "Welcome to New Earth Colony, Hei-yun, or should I say, Ms. Lee." His eyes twinkled with amusement. Hei-yun laughed softly. "You know about that." "I know everything that happens on my ships," Du-han said. He turned to face the crew who had gathered nearby, "including how well my staff maintains our standards." Tae-yang Kim stepped forward with Jai-won and Sung-min. They bowed to the chairman. "Sir," Tae-yang began, "I have prepared a full report about the journey." "Let's discuss it over dinner," Du-han said. "All of you, please join us. I want to hear everything about my daughter's adventure on our ship." An hour later, they sat in the chairman's private dining room at the spaceport. The twin suns of New Earth Colony cast golden light through the large windows. The view of the spaceport showed dozens of Stellar Airways ships arriving and departing. "So," Du-han said, looking at Jai-won, "you denied my daughter a first-class upgrade." Jai-won sat up straight. "Yes, sir. It was against our security protocols for interplanetary flights. I didn't know who she was at the time. And if you had known, I would have made the same decision, sir," Jai-won said firmly. "Rules should apply to everyone equally." Du-han smiled broadly. "Excellent. That's exactly what I wanted to hear." He turned to his daughter. "And you, Hei-yun, how did it feel to be denied?" "It felt right, Father," Hei-yun answered honestly. "You always taught me that respect should be earned, not given because of who your family is." The chairman nodded approvingly. Then he looked at Chief Engineer Sung-min. "Tell me about the quantum drive incident." Sung-min described how Hae-yun had solved the problem. As he spoke, he displayed the new maintenance protocols based on her solution. "Your daughter's timing correction method will help all our ships operate more efficiently," he explained. "She never mentioned being your daughter. She just helped because she could." "That's what true leadership looks like," Du-han said. He looked proudly at Hae-yun. "Not using your name to get privileges, but using your skills to help others." Tae-yang spoke next. "Sir, after reviewing this incident, I would like to propose some changes to our company policies." Everyone at the table listened carefully as he continued. "First, we should create a program that identifies passengers with special skills who could help in emergencies. Not just family members, but any qualified passengers." "Good idea," Du-han agreed. "What else?" "Second, while we should maintain our strict upgrade policies, we could create a system where passengers can register their professional interests. For example, engineers who want to observe our quantum drives could apply for technical observation opportunities." Hae-yun's eyes brightened at this suggestion. This was exactly what she had wanted. A chance to learn more about the ship's operations. "Make it happen," Du-han told Tae-yang. Then he turned to Jae-won. "And you, Ms. Lee, I'm promoting you to head of passenger services training. We need more people who understand the importance of treating everyone equally." Jae-won bowed deeply. "Thank you, sir. I will do my best to maintain our standards." As they finished dinner, the twin suns began to set, creating beautiful colors in the sky. Hae-yun stood by the window with her father, watching the ships below. "I missed you, father," she said softly. "I missed you too," he replied. "Your mother would be proud of how you handled yourself on this journey. She always said that true character shows when people don't know who you are." Hae-yun touched her mother's necklace. "I wanted to surprise you by coming here, but I ended up learning something important instead." "What's that?" "That you've built exactly the kind of company you always wanted, one where everyone is treated fairly and judged by their actions, not their names." Du-han put his arm around his daughter's shoulders. "And now you've helped make it even better. Your quantum drive solution, and this experience will improve how we serve all our passengers." Later that evening, as the crew prepared to leave, Du-han made one final announcement. "Starting next month, we will implement the Hae-yun Park Protocol on all our ships. It will allow passengers with special skills to register for technical observation and emergency assistance roles." He looked at his daughter. "Named not because you're my daughter, but because you earned it through your actions on this flight." Hae-yun felt tears in her eyes as she hugged her father. The surprise visit hadn't gone as she had planned, but it had turned out better than she could have imagined. As they walked together through the spaceport, Du-han pointed to the newest ship in their fleet, the Stellar Dream. "How would you like to learn about its quantum drive system tomorrow?" he asked. "As a registered technical observer, of course." Hae-yun smiled. "I'd like that very much, father. But this time, I'll fill out all the proper forms first." Above them, the twin suns of New Earth Colony cast their last rays across the spaceport. The stellar light stood at its gate, ready for its return journey to Earth. Thanks to one passenger's humble actions, it would fly under new protocols that made the airline even better at serving all its passengers fairly.